The pantheon of the Maya is an immense assortment of divinities, who were venerated throughout Yucatan, Quintana Roo, Campeche, Tabasco, and Chiapas in Mexico, which also included Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador and Honduras. Not all of the divine beings were venerated in all of the city-states of the Maya by the same name, but the type of spirit, and what that deity symbolized to the people, seems to have been universally recognized. The divine beings were engaged in every aspect of the existence of the Maya. They controlled the climate, the harvest, they directed one's mate, managed each birth, and were present at one's passing. As the divinities were portrayed as cross-eyed, mothers would hang a bead from the brow of their kids, with the goal that their eyes would become crossed. Additionally, children's heads were bound, particularly males, in order to elongate the forehead, in emulation of the divinities. The apparel worn by the nobility, and particularly the leader of a city, impersonated the dress of the divinities. The manner by which a city was arranged and the accuracy with which the central sanctuaries were built, were all followed from an understanding of the way of the divine beings. On the twin equinoxes every year, the sun projects a shadow of a serpent which moves slowly down the steps of the great sanctuary of Kukulcan, to the stone heads and creates an image of a serpent descending to the earth. Kukulcan, otherwise called Gucamatz, and most famously, Quetzalcoatl, was the most popular divinity among the Maya, and even today, a considerable amount of Maya and non-Mayan individuals gather at the sanctuary 2 times every year to receive the endowments of his visit to the earth. Join me as we study about some of the most prominent Mayan holy entities in this chapter called Mayan Mythology. Kukulcan is one of Central America's most well-known deities, as well as one of its most enigmatic. Kukulcan, also known as the plumed serpent or the feathered serpent, is the chief deity of the Yucatec Maya of the Yucatan Peninsula. He's also compared to the Aztec and Toltec deity Quetzalcoatl, the Huastec deity Ehecatl, and the Quiche Maya deity Gucamatz. Kukulcan was regarded as a divinity of rulership as well as a creation deity and the progenitor of all people. Kukulcan was also the spirit of the wind and rain. This is particularly noteworthy for the Yucatan Maya people, as rain was essential to their survival. Chichen Itza, where a magnificent temple was built in his honor, which was named El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulcan, was the most important Mesoamerican metropolis between 750 and 1200 CE, and it is still the Mesoamerican city most connected with Kukulcan today. The transferring of components of Mesoamerican culture across numerous present and successive civilizations is typified by these linked mythology and migration legends. Certainly, the layout, architecture, art, and iconography of Chichen Itza and Toltec Tolan are very similar, implying previous cultural links between the Toltec and Yucatec Maya. Even as of today, the feathered serpent is still a prominent emblem of Mexican indigenous cultural heritage. The main uniqueness of the Mayan culture's water element is that it was thought to come not only from rain, but also, and most importantly, from cenotes. According to Mayan legend, clouds originated in the cenotes, and the servants of the spirit Chark took them to the sky, so that the rain would fall from there. Chark was worshipped in the underground caverns because of the importance of the cenotes, and it is believed that when sacrifices were presented to him, the spirit preferred children because of their similarity to his servants. Chark is sometimes referred to as a single deity, and other times as 4 distinct Charks, deriving from the 4 cardinal points. Chark, whether 1 or 4, could control not just rain and storms, but also more dangerous natural events, like earthquakes and hurricanes. Ceremonies in honor of the rain spirit were held in each Maya city, and at different levels of society. Rain propitiation rituals were performed in both agricultural areas and more public venues, like plazas. Young boys and girls were sacrificed in particularly tragic circumstances, such as during a severe drought. Chark is frequently depicted with reptilian or amphibian features such as scales, a large nose, and a protruding lower lip. He usually wields a stone axe with which he slashes the clouds, which was said to cause rain, thunder, and lightning. Ixchel was the Maya deity of the moon, love, pregnancy, medicine, and the textile arts. She was the wife of the sun spirit Atkin, and was frequently depicted with a rabbit. Her name appears in hieroglyphs as Chak-Chel, which means large rainbow. In the Chilambalam, which was a collection of books which tells about the history of the Maya civilization, her name appears as Ixchel, which means rainbow woman. Itzamna, one of the Maya divine beings who created the world, is said to have married the divinity Ixchel and had 13 children with her, 2 of whom also assisted in the creation of the world. She represents the moon and fertility associated with the earth, as the lunar cycles determine the times of planting and harvesting. She was also associated with the rains and the Maya rain spirit Chark. The Maya depicted her as a young woman, a symbol of the waxing moon, or as an older woman, a symbol of the waning moon, pouring a jug of water onto the earth, or as an elderly woman weaving on a loom. She wore a serpent on her head, and her skirt was patterned with bones in the shape of a cross. She was honored in the Maya calendar during the month of Zip as the deity of medicine. This deity guarded pilgrims who came to her sacred island of Cozumel, now known as Cozumel, where one of her most important temples was located. There are canoes that depart from the port pole, now known as Xcaret, with pilgrims bound for her temple to seek the oracle of Ixchel. Young women also joined this pilgrimage to ask her assistance in producing the sons that their husbands desired. Ixchel is also revered on Isla Mujeres, where a temple in her honor is frequently visited by her devotees. Based on the writings of the Mayan Book of Creation, the Gucamatz was an angel who descended from heaven with the task of decapitating the first man made out of wood, and the second creation of the divinities Kukulcan and Tepu, considering them imperfect and without feelings. The place where he lives is called the House of Bats, along with thousands of these flying mammals under his command. His depiction consists of a bat-headed man holding a knife that represents sacrifice. According to the belief of the ancient Mayans and even the Aztecs, the Gucamatz is considered the lord and owner of the mysteries related to life and death. It was believed that he had enough power to cure illnesses, but at the same time he could cut the thread of life that united the soul to the body. The Gucamatz had large wings and sharp edges on them, with which, according to legend, decapitated Juniper. This divinity quickly found his place in the pantheon of the Quiche Maya, and they identified him as a bat spirit. Evidence and opinions of historians affirm that the history of the Gucamatz spread due to the arrival of vampire bats in the areas of Brazil, Guatemala and Mexico. In various codices, he was depicted holding his knife in one hand and in the other, holding his victim to decapitate it and offer their skull as an offering to his creator. Zamna, also known as Itzamna, after his deification in Mayan culture, was the son of Hunabku, who was regarded as the only true divine being, the creator, which made Itzamna one of the most important Mayan divine beings. Itzamna is a Mayan deity best known as the spirit of wisdom, heaven, night, and day, and is regarded as a universal spirit of life that encourages chaos, so that there can be creation. Itzamna was originally a shaman who became the founder of Chichen Itza, a city dedicated to teaching his doctrines. He also invented the first characters that served as letters in that region. He was also known as the Spirit of Wisdom, because he invented writing and books. As time passed, and his fame and prestige grew as a result of his exploits, he was elevated to the status of deity. Itzamna was regarded as a benevolent deity, because he was never associated with destruction, death, or disaster. According to Mayan mythology, Itzamna married the divinity Ixchel, who was the Mayan spirit of the moon, love, and gestation. They had 13 children, 2 of whom acted as creation deities. His most popular form is that of an old man, but because he is an omnipresent deity, it was believed that he could take different forms, such as that of a bird or a crocodile. Many Mayan mythology scholars believe that the earrings in Itzamna's ears represent the need to hear the voice of conscience, to know how to listen and act wisely. Furthermore, for many, Itzamna, the father of wisdom, evokes the idea of living with purpose, of accepting the diversity of human psychology, and of finding a way between the upheaval of emotions, which can manifest as love today and hatred tomorrow, and thus entering the path of wisdom. For generations, the Maya sun divinity Kinich Ahau has been revered in the culture that still prevails. He was an important spirit during the height of this important culture's civilization, as he was worshipped by warriors before a battle, and peasants during the planting season. Kinich Ahau, according to legend, was the sun spirit and patron of music and poetry, and many writings associate him with Ixchel, the moon spirit, as his partner. In this condition, some consider him an invocation of Itzamna. According to ancient texts, Kinich Ahau was kind and the giver of life and light during the day, but at night, on his nocturnal journey through the underworld, he became its greatest ruler as the divinity of the jaguar. He is regarded as the creator of time and the origin of the future as a result of this daily transition. He was typically depicted as an old man with a large nose, protruding tongue, and cross-eyed. It was critical for the Mayas not to enrage him, because he could bring diseases and cause droughts. He was worshipped with blood sacrifices and dances before embarking on a battle, for protection, power, and, most importantly, the blessing of this divine being. The priests who represented him were known as Arkin, which translates to, those of the sun and of time, were the ones who foretold men's fate. They would sometimes dress in jaguar skins, to imitate Kinich Ahau's abilities to heal, attract rain, provide good hunting, and bring good fortune in battle. The Mayan underworld was home to several deities associated with death, fertility, and germination. The main deity was the spirit of death, who received names that indicate his cadaverous nature, such as Arpuch, the gaunt, Kizin, the flatulent, Yum Kimil, lord of death, or Simi, death, reigned over the lowest of the Maya's 9 subterranean worlds and stands above all others for his known sovereign rule over death, disaster, and darkness. He is typically depicted as decaying, with a skeletal mask, protruding belly, filled with rotting matter, a body adorned with bones, and a necklace hanging with eyeless sockets. He was usually accompanied by an owl, a dog, or a bat, and thrived on human sacrifice. He was especially revered in Chichen Itza, where people were thrown into cenotes, or sacred wells, as human ritual sacrifices for Arpuch. He delighted in extinguishing the very essence of souls and keeping them in the underworld to be tortured. When night fell, this nefarious spirit would prowl the homes of the sick, either feeding on them, or leading them to the underworld. The only advantage the living had, was that they could hear the spirit approaching due to the noise made by the bells and necklaces that swung as he passed. There was no escape if you were seen and didn't run away from this spirit, unless you used piercing cries and screams to put him off your scent. By doing this, the spirit believed that he had not left his subterranean world, and sought new hunting grounds.